Hi. Usually my channel is about technical stuff, building things and 3D printing. Um, this is going to be something different. So I'm not sure how many of you saw the post that I made about me losing my mother, but she had been suffering from um, heart failure for quite some time. Uh, this kind of all started back in, I think, 2011, 2012. She went to the Mayo Clinic in Phoenix, and they saw that she had a congenital heart valve defect and her ejection fraction was low, but they did nothing about it, and they should have dealt with it then, but they didn't. And then she had really bad out of breath symptoms a couple of years later going up a hill, and she went to the doctor and she had a 13% ejection fraction. She was at death's door. They did some tests, they put some stents in, they fixed it. They weren't sure if the heart failure was ischemic or non-ischemic at that point. The doctor misdiagnosed it. It was ischemic, so there was damage. Um, Basically, the doctor that was handling that case was not doing his job properly. Again, the heart valve was not dealt with. This all could have been avoided if people had just done the right thing. Um, Basically, it just slowly declined. She would get stents put in, she would get a little better, and then get worse again. And it was a very slow decline. And then there was a death in the family that kind of made things tank a lot. And then she kind of stabilized. And then she had two heart attacks, which were STEMIs. Now, if you know what that is, but a STEMI, 6% of the people in the hospital that get one survive it. And she had two of these things on 2 different days. And if it wasn't for me forcing her basically to call 911 and go to the hospital, she wouldn't have survived those. She went straight to the cath lab and they put a stent in, and one of the arteries is 99% blocked. I saved her life. She got a little bit better from that, and then she was ultimately later on hospitalized in Sacred Heart in Spokane, and they were waiting to decide whether they needed to put this valve in or not, this replace the heart valve, and there was circumstances that ultimately decided that we had to do it under emergency circumstances because her condition was worsening. She got 50% better, I would say, and that lasted for about half a year to a year, and then it slowly started to go backwards again. And I kept telling her this, and she was in denial um, about this. She kept trying to say everything was okay because she didn't want to go to the hospital. No one wants to go to the hospital, but I was seeing what was going on. I was worried about losing her. I was struggling with work and that at the same time. And then ultimately, she was put on. She was registered for a transplant list because the doctor told her that her condition is going to continue to worsen. Eventually, all the organs are going to start shutting down. The labs are going to get real bad, and that's what started to happen. At that point, she was in the hospital, and I would come and visit her as much as I could, as much as my job allowed. And basically, I kept coming to visit her. She kept getting worse. She was in denial still. She said, "I'm getting better. I'm getting better." The doctor says you're very sick. And it went on like this for about a month, and then things started getting really bad. Uh, and also, I'm leaving out some details here. They also sent her home between these hospital visits with a PICC line, central lines, to give her medication to make her heart beat faster. So she was relying on that too, and you had to change the batteries on these things every 48 hours. It was really difficult, um, and the dosage wasn't correct and all that. It was really bad. So then she was in the hospital. They were talking about either putting an artificial pump in to pump one side of her heart to get her to a transplant, or doing a heart lung transplant because you need both at this point. And things were kind of stabilized at that point. But I'd come visit her, and things were moving very slowly. And then she started to go really downhill after about a month, and they were talking about sending her to San Francisco for a heart lung transplant or to have a pump put in. I was hours away from coming up to where I live, putting a notice at work, and moving down there. Ultimately, that didn't happen because she had gotten a systemic blood infection from one of her lines. I'm not sure exactly how, and caused her condition to worsen to a point that couldn't be recovered from, and her labs got very bad, so that was scrapped. She was not qualified anymore for that. At this point, the doctor had written a handwritten note, typed out a note, and has hand signed it, stating that she is not likely to survive more than a couple days, and to give to my work so they could approve me for emergency leave. The doctors there, in their 30-year career, had never seen somebody hooked up as many machines she was, and as many with the lab numbers that she was having, and the problems with her, awake and talking. They'd never seen that. She had an incredible will to live, but her body just wasn't there. So ultimately, that was off the table. They were just trying to keep her alive as much as possible. I had to tell her. She looked at the note. She said, "This is padded a bit, right?" To the doctor. I felt, you may find this bad or not, I don't know. I felt it was necessary to tell her the truth. So I told her, like, no, it's not. You were very sick. And everyone here was trying to tell you that because I wanted her to know that just so she knew what was going on. I mean, it's not the thing you want to be told when you're stressed out and worried about dying that you're dying. But I felt that it was the right decision. I was also medical power of attorney, so everyone there, all the doctors were asking me information on what to do and telling me, giving me options and stuff, and I was having to make decisions. I was under a tremendous amount of stress. I was pretty much living in a hotel room on site there. And basically, my leave was approved. The day after, early in the morning, she was put on a ventilator, and I was told to come in. My friend, who's based out of Spokane, came in, and her labs were getting worse by the hour, and she was likely to go into cardiac arrest at any point, and they would not be able to restart her heart. And I was given the option whether or not to proceed with that. I always advocated yes because that's what she wanted. But then they all took me into a conference room, talked to me, and said, "Hey, this is not going to work. When we try to restart her heart, she's going to feel it because we're going to have to stop the medications that are keeping the pain away, so we could try. She's going to be aware of it, and the best thing to do is turn everything off." And she was also on 24-hour dialysis at this point because her kidneys had failed. All her organs had shut down. Period. Like, everything was done. There was no coming back. She hadn't had a bowel movement in 4 days. Hadn't passed gas in 2 days. There's nothing to fix if they could fix her heart. So, like, that's what they told me. And I could see it when she was conscious, like that she was gone. She was not doing well. And ultimately the decision was made to turn off life support that I had to make, which broke me. I gave that decision. It was done. I could not even be in the room when they did that. I'm not sure if that makes me seem like a bad person. I don't know. But I didn't know what to do with myself for a very long time. I still don't know what to do with myself. It's been 4 or 5 months after this happened. She died on Veterans Day of 2025. And everyone that stepped up to help and everything, I really appreciate. Everyone at the hospital was great. Just to help, and I'm autistic, by the way, and ADHD and anxiety, so like I don't handle things normally, so this is really hard. There is a GoFundMe up, and I will give you the link for that in the description if you want to donate. It helps out enormously because I've got bills and stuff, and then this is a very stressful situation. She was tied to my finances, so she brought money into the house as well as me. So it's not just the emotional aspect of losing that, it's a financial thing as well. And there's also funeral medical bills that I'm having to pay as well. So anything helps. But I just wanted to make a video and document what's going on because I feel like that somebody needs to hear it. So hope you enjoy.